I was 14 years old when my sister Leslie introduced me to Flyin at El Monte Airport in the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles County in 1977. I was offered a job at G&H Aircraft to wash planes at 14, but because I was too young to have a work permit, the flight school paid me with flying lessons. I earned $7 for every Cessna 150 and $12 for every Cessna 172. I was so happy to ride my 10-speed bike to the airport just 3 miles away to wash airplanes. This was the humble beginning of my aviation life. Having started flying at this young age, I was eventually able to earn my private, instrument, commercial, and instructor certificates at the bare minimum age allowed. I loved taking my family and friends flying, and flying remained a huge part of my life. I joined the Air Force right out of high school and became an aircraft mechanic crew chief. I worked on C-5 Galaxies, C-141 Starlifters, F-16 Fighting Falcons, KC-135 tankers, and C-130 Herculeses. I eventually became an aerial refueling boom operator on the KC-135 tanker and a flight engineer on the C-130. My civilian education continued with aviation degrees from Mount SAC, which is known as Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California, and the Community College of the Air Force. While stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Utah, I attended Weber State University and obtained a bachelor's degree in geography. During my years in Utah, I started a flight school called Aviation Prep and taught students from 12 years old to 75 years old and had a blast doing it. Eventually, I got married and had kids, and the military became the primary job, taking me overseas, and I was deployed 4 times to combat zones in my 28 years of service. Flying took a back seat in the civilian world, and it just got left behind for more than 30 years. I always thought in my retired years I could just buy a nice 6-place airplane that you all been looking at, maybe get checked out in a Malibu or Silver Eagle. But then I lost vision in one eye, 100% certified blind. I was 54 years old in April of 2018 when this happened. For over half a century, I had both eyes working fine, functioning perfectly, and now this. This totally changed my life. Hi, I'm Brian, and I want to welcome you to my Quest video series of me getting recertified as a pilot with just one eye. You can follow my video series on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at One-Eyed Brian, and listen on various podcast crossover apps. Search History Dog, One-Eyed Flying Brian. I hadn't flown in more than 30 years, so my driver's license is what came to my mind first, not my pilot license. But eventually, my aspirations of flying in my retirement years did come to my mind, and I was thinking to myself, wow, how can I ever pass the medical certificate? In June of 2018, I was visiting my sister Leslie in Utah, who happens to be a helicopter pilot, and together we researched the federal aviation regulations. We did find a loophole. We did find some provisions for monocular one-eyed pilots in the FARs. I went to see Dr. Chester Carlson, an AME in Fort Smith, Arkansas, certificate number 01311. Together, we went over the federal aviation regulations and we found the provisions for monocular pilots. Okay, go to the FAA.gov website, the official Federal Aviation Regulation website, and on the search line, type in monocular vision. Hit search. This will take you to the Guide for Medical Examiners. What this does is this explains to the AMEs how to certify a person who has monocular vision. So when you click on the Guide for Medical Examiners, it takes you to the application process for medical certification for monocular vision. Let's read this together. An applicant will be considered monocular when there is only one eye, or when the best corrected distance visual acuity in the poorer eye is no better than 20/200. An individual with one eye or effective visual acuity equivalent to monocular may be considered for medical certification in any class through the special issuance section of Part 67, 14 CFR, which is Code of Federal Regulations, 67-401 or 67.401. So there you have it. According to the FAA, the FARs, under the medical certification, a monocular person can be certified in any class, 3rd, second, or even first class, providing they meet the criteria. So basically you're going to need what's called an 8500-7, which will be completed by your ophthalmologist, your eye doctor. That will be the supplement needed to complete the medical certification under the Special Issuance Program. I would have never started this video blog on social media if I'd not done my homework diligently to find out if this quest is even possible. I did my homework, I did my research, and it is possible. There's actually a lot of provisions for various handicaps to become a pilot. The FARs actually list a few things that are absolutely disqualifying, and there's also some things not listed. However, these things, if treated and under control, can still qualify. An applicant can still be considered under these provisions for both the Class 3, 2, and 1. One motivational story is that of flight instructor David Kelly, who lost his left arm to breast cancer. He was not expected to live. 16 months later, he was ready to try again with a prosthetic arm. The AME, or AeroMedical Examiner for David, was able to issue a special medical certificate after David obtained a SOTA, or Statement of Demonstrated Ability. The SOTA is obtained from the FAA Examiner, who flies with the pilot to assure he or she can operate the aircraft safely despite whatever the handicap is. I would encourage you to get to know Royal Air Force Captain Stuart McKillen, who suffered from an accident severing his spine, putting him in a wheelchair. He was asked by King Hussein of Jordan if he could find a way for paraplegics to fly helicopters. He became the first paraplegic to fly a helicopter in the United States and in Europe, blazing the way with an invention called the heli leg. I would take a look at the video of Ben, who is a CFI who also obtained a SOTA and has his commercial and IFR ratings with more than 4,000 hours of flight time. He instructed Gary Cox in obtaining a seaplane rating. Gary is a motivational coach who published the video. A really super informational video is that of Purdue University's Able Flight program. Let's take a look.
And now we go to Purdue University, the only place in the state where people with disabilities can learn how to fly. It's opportunity many of these students never thought possible. Sophia Salaby has the story.
He's been flying for 5 years now.
I have not flown a plane before my accident, and was the unique aspect of the Able Flight program because I didn't have anything to kind of relate it to.
In 2008, Major was in a motorcycle accident and now has paraplegia. During recovery, his mentor, another graduate of Able Flight, introduced him to the program.
During the rehab process, I focused a lot on what I cannot do. I can't play hockey anymore. I can't go up steps. I can't run. I can't. Woe is me, so to speak. And then the Able Flight program kind of did the opposite. It opened the doors to what you're capable of actually doing. So this is the T handle, and this is what I use to control the rudder, which was normally controlled by a person's feet. T handle goes in super quick, comes out super quick.
The T-handle allows Major to do things with his hands that a pilot without disabilities would do with his feet.
Some of it's very simple. We don't redesign anything, but it does get other people thinking, and we've had a couple of engineers start looking at how to do hand controls for a variety of different airplanes.
Purdue aviation professor Bernie Wiley oversees the program and says Able Flight participants are treated just like any other person. They have the same requirements any pilot would need to get certified.
It's a very intensive program. They are going through basically the same thing as a private pilot would here. And most private pilots take about 4 to 6 months, and they've got to do it within 6 weeks.
Over the years, the program has hosted people with paraplegia and quadriplegia, people who are deaf, and even someone with diabetes. Ray Martinio always wanted to fly, but he could never get a certified flight instructor or CFI to take him on as a student. Tinio is deaf, and he finally got his chance to fly when he received a scholarship from Able Flight 2 years ago. He uses several methods to communicate with the air traffic control tower. Willie says the first time his students fly by themselves is one of the most important parts of the summer. He remembers Tinio's first solo flight.
And everybody's sitting there kind of, and it worked out great.
As a Purdue student, Tinio researches how to make flying more accessible for deaf pilots like himself. Since the program, he's gone on to earn his private pilot certificate and hopes to one day be a professional pilot. And are people surprised to find out he can fly? Tinio and Major are just two of the more than 50 people with disabilities that have graduated from Able Flight at Purdue. The program will welcome its 8th class of students next summer. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Sophia Salaby.
Let's get to know Shinji Miya from Hokkaido, Japan. He went to the oldest Japanese aviation high school and then on to Nihon University. In 2000, he came to America and went on to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. He teaches at Snohomish Flight School in Washington State. Shinji Miya has one eye. He may be the only other one-eyed pilot that I know of in the United States. He's the president of a 501(c) organization helping pilots. I have provided links to his videos in the information section of my video. Now on to Susie Gilstrap in Southern California, where I am from. Susie's story really touched my heart from day one because she grew up near me in the city of Irvine and suffered an accident at the Los Angeles County Arboretum in Arcadia, where I have visited multiple times. The Arboretum is featured in Fantasy Island. Remember? The plane, the plane. A eucalyptus tree limb fell on her, putting her in a wheelchair during a school field trip. She was the subject of a movie called Skyward, produced by Ron Howard from Happy Days, about Susie's aspiration to fly against her parents' will. At 16, she snuck off to the airport, driven by her boyfriend, to take flying lessons. I was taking flying lessons in 1979 as well when this movie came out, so I had a strong connection to her story. Her mother is played by Marion Ross, who was Ron Howard's mother in Happy Days, and the stunt pilot is Rance Howard, Ron Howard's father. Anson Williams, who played Potsy in Happy Days, helped produce this movie. Lisa Welchel, who played Blair in The Facts of Life, plays her older sister. Julie Ward is Susie's character in the movie, but the most notable actress is Betty Davis, who plays Susie's salty seasoned flight instructor, and they have their moments of frustration. Betty Davis was in her 70s. Susie is always distracted because she has to endure being teased, and she suffers from anxiety from keeping her flying lessons a secret from her parents, who literally explode in anger when they eventually find out what she's doing.
White Cloud. Hey, Julie, you want to talk? No. It must be hard. It is.
From point A to point B, your true course is 140 degrees. What's your magnetic course?
I don't know, I forgot.
Well, think about it. East is least, west is best. What's your course? A good pilot never goes up with anything else on his mind except that plane. Now, do you want to talk about what's on your mind?
Nothing's on my mind.
You're not telling the truth. Roll out on 120 degrees. Good. We had a workout today. We're going in. Did you check the windsock? Yeah. So you know there's a crosswind? Yeah, I did. Hold her steady. I'm trying. You're not crab don't you fight me like that again.
I could have done it, and you know it.
No, you couldn't have. You're not experienced enough to land in that kind of a crosswind. We could have flipped. And don't you ever question my judgment again in my own plane.
Now, come on, let's get to getting with them straps. Well, come on, Julie, you don't sit there all night.
Maybe.
Get out of that plane, Julie. You're acting like a baby.
I'll act any way I want to act, and you stop telling me what to do.
I'll tell you what to do as long as you're my pupil.
Well, maybe I should get myself a new teacher.
Maybe you better just do that.
Okay, I will.
Here we go, baby.
Here we go, baby.
She's a minor, didn't you know that? She's a minor. I could put both of you in jail for this. Why don't you just do that?
Nobody's going to jail. Julie's 16, got a student license, doesn't need anyone's permission to fly.
Well, Eddie, let me tell you, you had no right teaching her in the first place, you know that?
Well, if it hadn't been me, it'd have been someone else at some other airport.
You get her down here on the ground, you get her down here, you get her on the radio,
I can't stop her.
you just get her down here.
Nobody can stop her now. Well, I don't want my daughter flying. Well, she wants it. She is the one who wants it. Self-killed it, that old thing. That old thing has been certified by the FAA, and I got me the paper.
Mr. Ward, for the first time in her life, your daughter's doing something on her own. And she's damn good at it.
She really does fly.
The main message of this movie is that you should not give up your ambition to fly if you suffer from some sort of handicap. For decades, the FAA has allowed provisions for special issued medical certificates that are accompanied by a SOTA or Statement of Demonstrated Ability, which we will cover in a future episode. Susie Gilstrap was a graduate of Irvine High School in Southern California. I have Gilstrap relatives in my family, and it makes me wonder if she's a distant cousin. I have provided a link to all of these videos in the information portion of my video on YouTube and on Facebook. Take a look at these videos and see if they don't inspire you. Now, on to Jessica, who will blow your mind.
This pilot is flying with no hands, literally. Jessica Cox is the nation's first and only licensed pilot who has no arms.
When I tell people that I'm a pilot, they're like, what?
Jessica was born without arms, but she can do almost everything with just her feet, from putting in her contacts to texting her friends on her cell phone, even playing the piano. Jessica has a black belt in Taekwondo. She makes a living as a motivational speaker, but always had a fear of flying. So Jessica decided to face her fears head-on and got a pilot's license. She talked with our Jim Murray.
How is it possible to fly a plane without hands?
You know, it's even hard for me to believe when I'm talking about them. You just do it.
Jessica invited us up for a spin high above the Arizona desert. Her lucky flying shirt reads, "Look, Ma, no hands." She showed us how she controls her plane.
And I would have my right foot right here on the yoke and my left foot here on the throttle. And I'm using my big toe to push on the push-to-talk switch.
So you feel perfectly safe?
I do, yes.
Is there any issue of safety at all?
You know, there's not. After, an hour, just like driving with her in a car, after an hour or so, you don't even really realize she has no arms.
Our cameras were mounted inside the small plane to see Jessica in action. Watch as she takes off. Jessica uses her left foot to control the throttle. Then her right foot pulls out the wheel as she lifts off. It looks scary, but she does it like a pro. And watch, after she makes a picture-perfect landing, she stretches her leg and opens the cockpit windows.
How was the flight?
That was fun.
So there you have it, some inspiring pilots with their physical shortcomings that got out there and did it. Maybe that'll motivate you to get out there and do it. In a future episode, I want to mention and thank several brother and sister aviation YouTubers who have motivated me to get back in the pilot seat. Your contribution to the aviation community is highly appreciated. I want to give a shout out to Sherry Henkemeyer Alvarez, who went to El Monte High School in Los Angeles County, where I graduated from. As we connected later in life, and I discovered that she's the manager and store director of the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. Wow, that's outstanding, Sherry. Thank you for your best wishes with this quest and your encouragement to stay focused and get her done. Please like and subscribe and share my video series, and thank you for watching.
Monocular pilots around the world pay tribute to Wiley Post, the most famous one-eyed pilot, for blazing the way for one-eyed pilots to be medically certified in the aviation world. May Wiley Post and Will Rogers rest in peace, and good luck, Brian, with your quest.